From double locations, it's time for another round of salty takeaways and bitter ends. It is me, John. I am at the Fraction, getting ready for Atlanta United 2 and OKC Energy. And Nick is watching from afar. He is not in Kennesaw.
No.
He is in parts unknown or parts known. How are we doing that? Are you in parts known?
Yeah, I'm in parts known. It's at Casa Azzurro here in the Kingdom of Dunwoody, and I'm here in my version of Office HD.
Okay.
So that's where I am.
All right. So then, so how would you say Office HD in Italian?
Yeah, I don't know, because I don't know HD. I think HD is just HD. So
there you go. Yeah.
Which other role?
All right. So it is Nick. It is John. It is time for salty takeaways and bitter ends. We do have some questions in the queue. We'll be getting to that in just a little bit as I get ready for Jason, who is doing the double header today, as he is racing from one venue to the next to go with the USL Championship action that you can catch on ESPN Plus for those of you who are watching and listening in the in-betweens. All right. It was a goalless draw, Nick, for Atlanta United and Red Bulls. There were moments, especially late, where it seemed like Atlanta United, with the substitutions that were made, really had Red Bulls on their heels. Miles had a close chance, hits the post off a set piece. It seemed like Jake Mulroney, when he came in, helped free things along. George Bello had a tremendous match as well. Can you, for those who watch Red Bulls only occasionally, can you kind of explain what folks are looking at when Red Bulls come into your house? What are folks looking at when they're staring at those folks in the white jerseys with the red numerals and the red letters?
Yes. So the entire organization is built off of the ideas of Ralph Rangnick and the gegenpressing, which is, it's a very high press. The idea is that you have 8 seconds to recover the ball when the opposition has it, 10 seconds to put a shot on goal. This is a cultural thing across the Red Bull teams. And so far as that when they do their training, they have an audible ticking that players get accustomed to. So that way, the minute they start off their training session and the opposition has the ball, the players hear an audible ticking, knowing, okay, it becomes built in. We have to recover the ball in this time, put a shot on goal in this time. The benefits of this are that you can take players who are not very skilled, who cost virtually nothing, as long as they're athletic, and it allows your team to be very competitive from the jump. There's very little onboarding or ramp up time necessary to do this. A lot of it can be built around physical training, and it gives you a longer runway to maintain competitiveness while you build up some of those essential skills to make your team more competitive across the board. It is a system where if the referee is playing loose, you can get away with a lot, because the whole focus is around that second ball. We're not just trying to intercept that first pass opportunity. We're trying to, every 50-50 ball needs to be coming a Red Bull way. That if there's a pass that looks like it's surefire, we need to turn that into 50-50. And that's the methodology behind the Rangnick press. And that has been passed along through the Red Bull organization, again, because it's very cost effective, and 2, because it's effective on the field. Now, if a referee calls the game very tightly and starts throwing yellow cards early, you're going to be in big trouble with this press. Because again, you have players who may not be the most skilled with their feet, but they are very athletic, they're very intense, they're moving with a lot of energy, and you can get into some ticky-tack foul trouble early on if a ref's calling a game very tightly. Also, later in a game, because you've been engaged with this high press so early in the game and so often, without really a shutoff switch, you're going to tire out and you're going to see tired legs. And even with bringing in subs, it's still not enough to counteract the fact that a majority of your team is going to be exhausted by the time this is over, which is why you're starting to see more Atlanta shots on goal toward the end, better opportunities, because they're not able to handle Atlanta moving the ball out of the back as easily as they were in the early phases of the game. That's why Red Bull teams, they'll jump on you early, put a couple of balls in the back of the net, And then it's a game of, okay, we're just going to try to keep them from outscoring us at the end. I think you saw that today, where the Red Bulls came out very intense, very physical early on. Once you saw the Cards come out, what happened? Atlanta started getting a little further into the attacking space, and then toward the end of the game, Atlanta's getting some quality shots on goal.
When it comes to the officiating, I know that a lot of folks were looking at Alan Kelly as someone who could, be one of those calming presences early on in the match. But I think that a lot of Atlanta United fans looked at how he was calling the match early, and this goes to your point about refereeing, and this is why I'm bringing this into the discussion. 5 fouls in 15 minutes for Red Bulls, and then you had the nasty early foul by Reyes in the 16th, where he only gets a talking to, he doesn't get a yellow, and so it was obviously frustrating early on if you're looking for someone to try and gain control from a center ref perspective, and you were hoping that persistent infringement would be a part of the discussion as we went along.
Yeah, look, when you're calling that many fouls that early on, essentially what's happening is the fouling team is giving an indication to both their opposition and to the official. Here's what we're doing today. This is our game plan. And either you're going to check us on it or you're not. And we're figuring that out right now. And how much of a check are we talking here? Calling a foul, no big deal. Whatever. We can take fouls. Yellow cards change games. Goals change games. Red cards change games. The wait for the yellow cards. And here's the thing. I know we want yellow cards called early, as if the fouls are against us. I don't care what team you're cheering for. You want the cards called early. The downside of that is once you drop one card, it opens the floodgates. And so whenever your team tries to play physical and tries to play with a bit of aggression, now there's yellow cards coming your way as well. And we see this with Sosa. Sosa has another card. One more, he's going to have to miss a match for a guy who's played virtually every game. He's a key component to this team. And that's not something you necessarily want to be without. So again, I understand the push and the call for yellow cards. However, I would rather have a consistent game where there's fouls across the board, and then finally we start getting some yellow cards when it's been proven that, hey, this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. Try to rein back control. I would take that over cards early, cards often, and now we're talking about an official having more direction over the result of the game rather than the players themselves.
A couple of other moments in the first 45 that I wanted to get into. To your point, when we're talking about the pressure from Red Bulls, around the 30-minute mark, Atlanta United was only passing at about a 64% efficiency rate, and that goes to the conversation that we were having earlier. And then in the 35th, Alan Franco is subbed on for an injury for Ibarra, and that put Alan Franco straight into the fire coming in off the bench for an injury for Atlanta United. As of right now, we don't have any update on what happened. Ibarra did end up on the bench in sandals in the second half, and obviously he said he's nodding to the conversations about being okay and such, but that put Alan Franco right in the fire in the 35th.
Yeah, so the one thing about the Rangnick press is it sort of acts like a Jedi mind trick, okay? And that is, if you're the keeper and you are distributing against this press, the idea is that you want to work the ball to the most sure-footed person you can, the most clearly open person you can, to try to spring a counter or to try to matriculate the ball up the field and with the least resistance, right? But what the Red Bulls press does is it's highly organized. It may, from the stands, appear at times to be sort of bat blank crazy, but there is a method to the madness of the Red Bulls press, and which is they've done their homework. They've identified, okay, when someone comes on or the game starts, and who is the person who's probably not the best with their feet. What we were going to do is we're probably going to lay off the press to them a little bit. And what that's going to appear from the keeper standpoint and from the other players on the field is that player's open. So let's get the ball to him because we have all this pressure coming to us. He looks like a solvable outlet. Let's move the ball to him. And then what happens is that player then receives the full pressure of the Wolfpack. which then the player who is the weaker of the foot ends up either turning the ball over out of bounds, or they make a sloppy pass to which the Red Bull team counters and immediately puts a shot on frame. So when you have a new player come in, such as Franco, he's going to automatically be keyed. He's not up to game speed. He's not in with the rhythm of the game. He's more likely to put a ball into a position where it can be challenged easily. We're going to attack him. And so you see this with the Red Bull teams. That's one thing I want people to understand about this Red Bull press, is that it is very systematic in nature. Especially if you go by the if you go more toward the origins of it, it is very systematic in nature. We know who we're going after. We know how we're going to target players. And from a pressing standpoint, even how we approach a press from the angle of the press, it's all to guide the ball to where we want it to be. You think you're getting a clean pass. You're not. You're actually putting the ball exactly where we want it. And that's what I mean by the Jedi mind trick. So Franco, immediately when he comes on, it isn't the fire, because now that's the Jedi mind trick. We want to try to find a way to pressure him immediately, put a ball into dangerous positions, and make Brad Guzan put forth some Herculean efforts, which he did today.
And we mentioned the Jedi mind trick and focusing on the smallest wildebeest in the pack. It only took 4 minutes for Red Bulls to try to take advantage of something. It was an awful giveaway by Franco at the back, and it forced a big save from Klamala by Brad Guzan. You mentioned the big day that Brad Guzan had. Then when you look at the rest of the 45, there were moments there pretty much from that moment, say from the 41st minute, where you had Bello and Moreno working in with Cubo Torres. You had a set piece where Cornell had to punch it clear from Barco in the 43rd. Moreno chopped to Cubo again a couple minutes later. And then at 45-30, you had Brooks combining with Cubo. There was sustained pressure there. There was that 4 or 5 minutes toward the end of the first half where you had Atlanta United working their way through, and it seemed like they were getting into a bit of a match rhythm there toward the end of the first half, goalless at the break.
Mm-hmm. And again, when we talked about the Red Bulls teams tiring out and having moments where they can be beaten, the only time that you're going to find, probably, unless it's just a bad press, the only time you're going to really find sustained success against that press is playing through them or playing over them. Playing through them, it's going to happen more when they're exhausted. So when did this action happen? Toward the last 4 to 5 minutes of the half, right? Toward the end of the game, when did we see Atlanta United with more success? Again, toward the later end of the second half. So as the Red Bull team tires out, you're going to find more opportunities to work through. They can't exactly apply that same pressure. They can't turn that singular pass into a 50-50 ball as easily. And when you have people who are good on the ball, it allows you better chances to move the ball forward into attacking positions, keep the Red Bulls in their half where they're not good. The system is not built to play out of the back, retain possession. Everything is vertical for a diagonal incisive pass if you follow the letter of the law of Rangnick. Rangnick did not believe in that horizontal passing and backwards passing were conducive to playing good attacking football, to keeping the opponent on their heels. Everything needed to be vertical or a diagonal incisive pass. You only pass horizontally or backwards when your attack is completely stifled and you need to start working back, and that's just to trigger the next assault forward. If Atlanta pushes the Red Bulls into their own third, well, you have opportunities there because Atlanta they have better players with the ball at their feet than Red Bulls do. But Red Bulls have physicality, and they at the end of the day, you're catching Atlanta at a time where they still need answers at striker. Cubo Torres' work rate was fantastic. He put shots on goal, but again, we've discussed this in the past on Salty. It's something that I'm a firm believer in. As a defender, I love strikers who are lacking in confidence or can't seem to get their act together to put the ball in the back of the net, because I'm going to hug you. I'm going to always put a hip on you. I'm going to put an elbow in your back just to let you know I'm there. And I'm going to make you work for every shot on goal. And Cubo Torres, his work rate, unquestioned. But the man needs to put the ball in the back of the net in order to turn his fortunes around. He doesn't seem to be able to do that yet. Every ball seems to either go to the side, over, directly to the keeper. But you can just feel that ball is he's almost there, so close yet so far away. But Atlanta really has to solve the question of where the goals come from when Joseph Martinez is not in this lineup.
Second 45 minutes, there was a substitution when Reyes went down injured. It was Frankie Amaya, which was interesting to a lot of folks, and it seemed at points where it looked like more of a 4-2-2-2, which we've seen in the past with Red Bulls. Then, to your point where you were discussing the team that is not Red Bulls because of their pressing and forcing and all of the energy that's expounded. A couple of big saves by Brad Gazan in the 66th and the 68th. Created a transition opportunity the other way with Lennon. Mulroney comes in for Lopez, and he is subbed in the 70th. 74th, you get your first corner for Atlanta United. You've got Bella with a chance in the 77th. You had the pinball in the 78th. And once again, this is to your trend here. Moreno, who almost scores from his backside in the 83rd. You have that. You've got another corner. You've got yellow cards coming out because of fatigue, 85th and 86th, trying to get to the end of the match. Lennon and Kubo combining for a corner in the 89th, miles off the post. There's a trend here that's developing from your discussion. You had the Franco set piece at 90+4, and it ends up with a goalless draw. So to your point, that second half with the last 20 minutes, that was leaning in that direction.
Right. And the 4-2-2-2 is the Rangnick formation. That's really, when you talk about the Red Bulls and the Rangnick teams, that's really the system, the formation rather, that he trots out the most. Now you start seeing more since Rangnick's departure. There's been a little more fluidity, movement to a 3-4-3, sometimes a 4-3-3, and his Rangnick disciples have adopted different variants of that as well. The system itself remains the same, even though the formation changes. And so really with the Red Bulls teams, if it's weathering the storm for the first 20 to 30 minutes in each half. If you can do that, you will find opportunities toward the end of the half to do damage to them, toward the end of the first half, and certainly toward the end. Now, the biggest issue that's going to work against Atlanta in this situation is when you have fouls that are happening early on that are not being called because the ref is calling the game how they're going to call it. And this is not saying anything bad about Alan Kelly. I know that everybody wants to slaughter MLS refs. I am first in line for this. However, as I said before, prefer fouls over cards, call them where they are. Atlanta, when they put shots on goal, it's almost there. I was with Mike Conti. You could feel the goal was coming. Just didn't know for who. The trends are there for Red Bulls if you know how to take advantage of them. And I think if Joseph Martinez is in this side, you're probably seeing a goal or two for Atlanta, at least, just because I think he knows how to navigate that, and he can facilitate action as well. We're seeing that out of him this season whenever he's been in the lineup, dropping into the midfield, distributing cleanly. That's another way you can break up these Red Bull pressing moments, especially when they get into that 4-2-2-2, is take advantage of that gap between the second row of two, the first row of two, and the second row of two. Is you find that gap and you find somebody who can get in there and start distributing a little more cleanly. These attacks will build and multiply. You don't have that necessarily here. You have players who can definitely, with Moreno, who played his rear end off, Barco.
Literally.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, Barco, you definitely want some better finishing there. But Atlanta's finding their chances. Everything gets up to that final third, and then there's problems. I know that Gabriel Heinz has got to be frustrated with that. I know that the fan base is frustrated with that. I'm not telling you not to be frustrated. I know there are people who are going to see the show post and go, oh, here come the sunshine pumpers. To survive the press, you have to be able to distribute well out of the back, or you have to have a team that is committed with just what we call, remember the old boom ball, where we just boot the ball and send track stars to go get it. That's fine, except the Red Bull system is built for a safety net for that, which is that back line will park at the half. And what they do is they wait for that boom ball to happen. And again, they're masters of that secondary ball, that 50-50 ball. And what's a boom ball? It's a 50-50 ball at best. So Red Bulls recover, and now they're doing another attack right down your throat. So again, the key is building from the back, get to that final third, put some shots on goal, and really the idea is to have one of those land. Didn't happen though.
All right, so let's get into the folks who have sent us their thoughts via the Twitter, and I'll run through them cliffhanger style, and if there is a particular tweet that you want to address, Nick, feel free to do so, and a lot of it comes to what we were discussing with the striker up top. GTUTD1, Lennon and Bella were so good today, so many serviceable balls in. You get the feeling if Joseph or any true striker were in the game, they could have had a hat trick. Waste. We talked about that early on. South Georgia United. If Kubo used his head in front of goal as much as he does in the midfield, we would have won. Give Conway a game. With Kubo Torres, there were a couple of ideas. Some of them, I want to say that there were two at the very least that I could think of where the connection was just a little ahead of Kubo. He couldn't quite get there in time. So I think it was 6 chances where Kubo was involved in this particular match, and we talked about his work rate, which is absolutely tremendous. Nathan Pugh, one word, ugh. David, at Who Took My Thrash, to your point, strong finish for Atlanta, needs some better finishing, but liked the fight. Even though they seemed to struggle to find Barco on offense, his effort tracking back on defense was great. So that's what David at Who Took My Thrash had to say. And Bartimus Prime is in, why did Kubo play all 90 minutes? And why is Alan Kelly so infuriating? So Bart Keeler in with that particular conversation. Conversation Heart at Nickajack88.
Well, I understand.
Okay, go for it.
If I could, for one moment.
Yeah, go for it.
One, I'm with you on I'm with you on okay, I'm with you. You want these shots to end up on goal. With the reason why you have Kubo Torres in for the whole game is that his work rate up top is, and again, the one weakness of the Red Bulls is going to be their ability to play with the ball at their feet, which means you need to have a forward who can press, who can be that first line of defense. The work rate of Kubo Torres, what have we talked about? Work rate of Kubo Torres is great. It's wonderful. And if you have a team that is not good with their feet, what do you want to do? You want to press them early, to turn that ball over, to have that turnover happen within the 18, to have it happen, as close to the goal as humanly possible. So if you have that, then you can, put that shot on goal and have those attacks start early, saves your team energy. And Kubo can do that. So I understand people want Jackson Conway, but clearly there's something in training that's going on that tells Gabriel Heinze, hey, Kubo's the best guy for this job. And look, don't give me the conspiracy theories about someone from on high who's coming down saying starch Kubo. If that was the case, Gabriel Heinze is not a manager who would tolerate that. Gabriel Heinze would not be a part of any team that is dictating to him who to start and when. But if you're playing a Red Bulls team and they have an opportunity to start something from the back, that's where they're at their weakest point. They want you to be doing something with the ball so they can attack it. That's what their whole system's based off of. So if they have the ball and they're working from the back, that's when you got to hit them. That's where you got to make them pay. And if Kubo is applying pressure to get that ball and then distribute to someone else who can be in a bit of a better goal scoring opportunity, because when you receive that ball or you get that ball away from one of the defenders or the keeper, you're not necessarily in a best goal scoring position. So then you distribute it to someone else, either a Moreno or a Barco, who can come in and take that shot. But again, when you're playing any Rangnick, any descendant of a Rangnick team, that's the time when you got to get them. And so I understand that people are calling for, Kubo's head because he's not putting the ball in the back of the net. As a striker, that is usually your job, unless it has been dictated otherwise, like as a false nine, or if you are a hold-up player and your job is to distribute to someone else who will put the shot on frame. But I like his work rate, and that's why I like his work rate. because we need to press teams as well as avoid being pressed. It's a two-way street on that.
Conversation Heart says, it was fine. New managers to MLS always struggle with the Red Bull press. Heinze seemed to adjust well in the second half. To your point, Nick, took Tata 2 years. And Chris Armas also following up with the thought of some ties feel like wins, some ties feel like losses. This tie felt like a tie. That's
it did. And yes, look, Argentina, there's no shortage of pressing teams in Argentina. The difference is why you press and when. The German press is more systematic in nature. It is more targeted in nature. They know who they're going after. They know why they're doing it. It's not just we are going to attack them and we're just going to cause havoc. There's a methodology behind this that's proven and it works. That's why they implement it system wide through the Red Bull system. But it is a transition period, and this league is tough. It's a harder league than people give it credit for. Even when you have Gonzalo Higuain saying, "Hey, look, man, I thought I was going to come here and smoke cigarettes and play ball." No, it's not happening, right? But that doesn't change the fact that people want the ball in the back of the net. It doesn't change the fact that we want our goal scorers to score. That's why we're paying them to do so. But the manager is going to have philosophies and a system that got them going to be eager to change that. You have some managers who are very pragmatic and say, okay, this isn't working, go into plan B. This isn't working, go into plan C. And Carlo Ancelotti is one of those guys, right? But you have some managers like Bielsa, like Van Gaal, that say, we're not changing it. Like Guardiola. No, I may wait till the end of the season and go through a growth period and say, okay, we need to tweak or alter or change this, and he has. But overall, the guts of my system aren't going to change, but I'm going to tweak things to be more successful in the league I'm in. Guardiola had to do that when he went to Bundesliga, right? He tried doing the standard Barcelona, what everybody calls tiki-taka. He hates that, but the tiki-taka didn't work as well because the German teams were pressing the hell out of him. So he had to alter his tactics to make it work. When he went to the Premier League and you had the speed left and right, he had to change things up a bit. It's going to take time, but I think Gabriel Heinze is going to make some tweaks and some alterations to make things work. If you are concerned about playoffs, it's early in the season, but I can understand that, hey, look, we need to start again. We need to find someone who's putting the ball in the back of the net when Joseph Martinez is not here. That's something that needs to happen. I guarantee you the front office, whether they say it or not, has been working on such a thing. But right now, there's something that's happening on the training ground that is telling Gabriel Heinze, for what we're trying to do, Kubo Torres is the best guy for the job. And keep in mind, that's not just putting the ball in the back of the net. It may be pressing people, harassing that back line so they have difficulty building out of the back, and put the ball into the teeth of our midfield with guys who can handle the ball really well. Maybe it is some hold-up play. There are other responsibilities that he may have that are going to factor in to whether or not this man starts over someone else like a Jackson Conway. And we in Atlanta are used to a dynamic striker. We're used to somebody with the ball at their feet who can break down back lines, break ankles, put the ball in the back of the net, look extremely good doing it. And we don't have that right now. So it's very noticeable, right? Imagine having a Ferrari parked in, your driveway. You drive it to work every day. Then one day it goes into the shop, and then you get a rental car and it's like a Ford Fiesta. You know what I'm saying? People are going to notice. People are going to notice. A Toyota Camry. People are going to notice. So when you have something that dynamic and you lose it for any reason, whether it's injury or international breaks, it's going to get very noticeable. And so I think that's part of the reason for the outcry is it's so noticeable that we don't have that dynamic threat up top. But now that responsibility is being spread load, and the players are going to have to make adjustments in their own game and say, okay, instead before where I would maybe distribute at this particular juncture, maybe I need to have a crack. And in that, you're going to get more balls going over the net. You're going to get some going to the side. As they figure out that role and responsibility, and if this, then this, they're going to have to work through that as well. And you saw when Gabriel Heinze just walked off the field and went right down the tunnel. He's frustrated. He wants that solved. The fan base wants it solved. I guarantee the front office wants it solved. So it's noticeable. It is noticeable.
A couple of other before we say goodbye after the goalless draw with Red Bulls. Turner Kirby, and this is to your point, Nick, that you had earlier on in the show. The team that played at the end of each half looked totally different than the team that started each half. Hate that the Columbus playoff game goalpost decided to show up. And also, is Barco literally going to have his leg broken to get a card for a foul committed on him? Turner, don't encourage. That's all I can say.
Right. Yeah. So with Barco, what you have is a player who first came to the league, who went down when a breeze came near him. And it was one of the things that frustrated me about Barco in the beginning. Unfortunately, that reputation has stuck with him, even though he's getting macheted in the field. This league has never protected playmakers at all, ever. And as a result of that, it's, I get it. It's the more egalitarian view of, if you're a player and you have the ball, have fun. But at the same time, every other league around the world has Jordan rules. And for those who are very young and who don't understand the term Jordan rules, there was a period when Michael Jordan was playing that he got fouls that no other player on the floor got. And that's because the league was like, hey, look, everyone's going to try to hack this dude into oblivion. So we got to make sure that our number one asset is sort of protected.
Yes.
And so he had sort of a special bubble, this aura of protection around him. That happens in La Liga with Messi. It happened when Ronaldo was there. It happens in England, where star players, ball carriers, number 10s, number 9s are largely protected. In Italy, same thing. There was a period of time in the 80s where they had the same viewpoint as MLS, which is, brother, if you got the ball, you're probably going to get killed, and maybe it's a card, maybe it's not. Who knows? But here in MLS, we've never had that, and it's time that we start adopting that, where we start protecting people, these ball players, these magicians with the ball. Barco is getting macheted left and right, and no one is protecting him, and I think it's buffoonish that they're not doing so. And I think it's buffoonish that we're not protecting some of the other star players in this league from that kind of attack, because in the end, it does nothing to make your league better by treating these distributors, these game changers, with like bare knuckles boxing. It does nothing to benefit your league.
Last two on the board. Go ahead.
Last thing to finish at this point, and it is that, yes, it's two very different teams, and I appreciate other people noticing that. It's something that when we start seeing teams that are adopting, more teams that are going to adopt this pressing mentality, it's something to keep an eye on. It's something to watch in games as to when the chances occur. And managers are going to see this, and they're going to adjust their tactics accordingly as well. So it's going to be fun to see. And yes, the post, my God, it felt like the post curved. Like, no. The goal had a mind of its own, like angels in the outfield or something. It was absurd. But yes, okay, continue, John.
Last tweets on the board come from Michael Head, and we discussed Jackson Conway, where Michael asks, is Conway a real person? No, he is not the Jonathan Tuttle of Atlanta United. That's your MASH reference for the day. Use your MASH Reddit for that explanation. And Michael says, bad teams draw at home and lose on the road. This is not a bad team.
Yeah, look, you could say it's a bit of a disappointment. I'm willing to say disappointment.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say it's a bad team. There's too much talent on this roster to be considered a bad team. And I know that the results, people will say, well, but the results, and you absolutely have a point. I'm not going to belittle that point. However, I don't agree with it necessarily. I have said consistently, come June, Ask me where the team is. I'll let you know. I'll say it's disappointing. It's disappointing from the standpoint of we have Joseph. The international break is a monster. We were hoping that Joseph would be fully back into the lineup, ready to roll. I was personally hoping he would not do the Copa America call up, but how are you going to tell somebody not to play for their country?
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah.
But I really want someone to find the back of the net. And I think it's a matter of time. Finding the back of the net is a matter of time. It's time and opportunity. The opportunities are there. Now we just need the time. And so, I'm not changing my viewpoint. I'm saying that I would say it's disappointing from a result standpoint because there's too much talent on this team. But the manager's working his way through. Players are working their way through. There seems to be a hell of a lot more fight with this team this year with these results than what you had in 2020. So I will say that. And I appreciate if this team had these results and they had the MLS's back general vibe, I would say, yeah, major problems. They don't seem to have that. The players, from what we're hearing, from what we're seeing, the players seem to be bought in. They are raving about Heinze. They're saying that that they enjoy playing for him, and Heinze is animated. He's involved. He's not just kicked back, just staring into oblivion. That's not a shot or shade at anybody. It's just he's involved and engaged, right? So I would say disappointing, not bad. And if somebody wants to disagree with me, that's fine.
He's Nick. I'm John. Goalless draw for Atlanta United and Red Bulls Chicago next week at this time next weekend. So we'll be addressing it once again on Overreaction Monday on the SDH Network. We'll also have a Twos review later tonight on Sunday, looking back at the match with Atlanta United 2 and OKC Energy from the Fraction. But once again, we'll try it all again and we'll talk about it all again starting Monday morning, 9 o'clock Eastern, here on SDH. He's Nick. I'm John. Play it safe, everybody. We'll see you next time.